asked the World Trade Organization, did you rule in favor of child labor? They will say, no, we've never ruled on child labor. But this is what they did. You cannot rule it illegal for a government to ban a product based on the way it is produced. So now, across the border in Mexico from Texas, we have maquiladoras. Those maquiladoras hire these child laborers. Goods are being brought across the Pacific by the Chicoms in great big ships that can't even get through the Panama Canal. They're too big. They're docking now at state-of-the-art ports along the coast of Mexico, being built by Walmart and the Chicoms. Mexican truck drivers pick up those goods, bring them to the maquiladoras. They're assembled there. Most of those maquiladoras are owned and run by American corporations. And then those child labor products are brought into the United States for sale. So that is what this free trade is bringing us. It's not free trade. It's not free trade. But you find one congressman who dares stand up and speak against the World Trade Organization or free trade, and he will be run out on a rail. And every dime from every corporation in this country will be against him. So that's what we are up against in this craziness. Okay, this is simply stating the Constitution, which says that when the United States is going to negotiate a treaty with a foreign country, it is Congress's responsibility. What Obama is doing and what free trade has been doing is mocking our Constitution so that the trade treaties are actually being negotiated in secret by the U.S. trade representative and the trade representatives from other countries. So they sit and negotiate. We can't get a copy of the working document, but they have round after round after round of talk. So that is what is going on, and it does oppose the U.S. Constitution, which clearly states that it is Congress who will negotiate. Now, when I confronted Pete Sessions, the number 3 man in the United States Congress about this on the day that we had our district conventions, he got in my face and said I didn't know what I was talking about, and that he is making sure that things are right. Even though he's not sitting at the table and negotiating. But you know what? Once they get in there and once they feel that power, they like it. And they're going to do whatever they can to keep it. And that's who Pete Sessions is in Dallas, Texas. The United Nations is involved in this. In 1995, it came up with a report called the UN, the Commission on Global Governance, Our Global Neighborhood. And in this document, it says that there will be regional, economic, and political blocks that could be stitched together into a balanced system of global governance under the UN. And this is what I've been watching happen ever since 1995 when I attended my first UN meeting. So the UN is absolutely involved in every one of its free trade treaties. We are ceding more authority to the WTO and ultimately to the United Nations because it has a whole lot more to say about the WTO than what Americans do. The way that it works within is very interesting. The very first time I ever heard a Catholic nun advocate for abortion was at my very first UN meeting in Beijing, China in 1995. So what they do is they'll have Friends of the Earth, Sierra Club, labor unions, all of these different groups. And you will find corporate money going into their pockets, into their coffers, paying them to advocate certain things. And so it's not what we, the people, from the bottom up, the way our Constitution was constructed, to empower the people, of, by, and for the people. Instead, this is a global plan that is being filtered down and usurping our authority. The overarching objective will be sustainable development according to the trade treaties that are now being negotiated in secret. Sustainable development, any of you who have heard me talking about Agenda 21, is three things. It is social, economic, environmental justice, or equity. Now, if someone wants to make sure that there is economic justice or economic equity, what kind of government system does that sound like? It's Marxism. That's right. And that is exactly what sustainable development is. It has turned our government on its head. Instead of from a bottom up, it is a top-down approach to governing. And instead of we the people speaking, it is these paid troublemakers from Sierra Club or Wildlife Fund and these different groups who have the money and are lobbying and attending these meetings around the globe. And as I say, they protect the labor unions, but they don't protect our Constitution. Obama made it clear, not this year, but last year in his State of the Union address, he said, and tonight, I'm announcing that we will launch talks on a comprehensive transatlantic trade and investment partnership with the European Union. Why? Because trade that is fair and free across the Atlantic supports millions of good-paying American jobs. Really? Okay, let's see how that's working for us. NAFTA. The lie is there more trade equals more jobs and more prosperity. That's the lie. The truth is, the year before NAFTA, the United States ran a $1.6 billion surplus with Mexico. In 2012, the U.S. ran a $64 billion deficit with Mexico. Now, is that more jobs? Is that helping our economy? Why aren't we hearing about these? And why is everyone falling all over himself to go vote for the next free trade agreement? NAFTA predicted that it would create 20,000 new jobs. By 2010, NAFTA had eliminated 682,900 U.S. jobs, some in every state. So it's not creating jobs, and it's not improving the economy. But what did Barack Obama just say? It helps the economy, creates jobs. We've got to have more free trade treaties. Why? The Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership is also called TTIP, when you hear them talking about it, TTIP. British Prime Minister David Cameron said that it is the biggest bilateral trade deal in history. The biggest! And yet we're not hearing about it, are we? The secret talks are going on and on. They have had their fourth round of talks in March. And so they are marching ahead on this one. The goal is to have it completed by 2015. 2015 is a very crucial year for the United Nations. This December, Lord willing, I'm going to Lima, Peru. And Lima, Peru is going to be the final meeting for the Climate Change Treaty before meeting in Paris, France in 2015 to complete a new legally binding treaty for cap and trade. Exactly what Obama, by decree, put on Texas and the entire country today. He plans to sign a legally binding treaty with the United Nations in 2015 in Paris, France. So Lima, Peru is the last step on the way to Paris, France. So these are very big deals. 2015 is a major, major year for the United Nations. After completing the treaty, then of course it takes a little bit of time before it is ratified by the United States Senate. And so the goal is to have 5 years from 2015 to 2020 to get that accomplished. So 2015, have all the I's dotted and all the T's crossed, and 2020, have this thing rolling out as a legally binding treaty. The Trans-Pacific Partnership goes across the Pacific, as is obvious, and right now there are 12 countries, but eventually there would be as many as 21 countries that would be involved. And the only thing that has been accomplished so far is they agreed on bidding rules for building roads, railways, and bridges. Sound like something you've heard about up and down I-69 in this area? Yeah, something like that. But the NAFTA partners obviously are already a part of this, but eventually the goal is to have Russia and China. And those of us who fear the one true God understand that when Russia and China unite, we're talking something of biblical proportions. So that is part of the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. The countries that are today involved in the negotiations are Australia, Brunei, Canada, Chile, Vietnam, great freedom-loving country, right? Yeah. 21 nations eventually, including Russia and China, have made that point. And the negotiations, again, are secret. There's an international arbitration tribunal, and this is what happens when someone files a complaint and says, oh, this is not being upheld correctly. So they file a complaint with the WTO. There's an arbitration panel of 3 members. Well, do you think that out of 193 members to the United Nations, that the UN Secretary General is going to choose favorable or unfavorable? And whatever nations he chooses, he knows the outcome before he makes the appointment, right? Absolutely. So that is exactly what we are doing again, ceding our authority, ceding all of our lawmaking rules and administrative procedures to the World Trade Organization. It is very much into corporatism. I think I've spoken enough about this. There are 17 industry sector advisory committees that have input with the U.S. Trade Representative, and yet our own congressman cannot have access to this. Another concern that we should have is, well, what about the religions of some of these nations that we're making these deals with? When you look at Brunei, Malaysia, and Vietnam, they persecute Christians. Are those ones that we want to cede our sovereignty to the WTO in order to make us conform to their rules and regulations? They spy on almost every Christian gathering. And in Brunei, they say the religion of Brunei, Dar al-Salam, shall be the Muslim religion. Islamic Sharia law supersedes all other law and regulates all aspects of life. And we're sitting down and signing trade treaties with these people under Obama. The disputes, again, a very interesting thing here. If a corporation is only based in America, it is not multinational, but only in America, then it is subject to the EPA, OSHA standards, and all these other rules and regulations. But if it is a multinational corporation, they are not subject to it. So it puts American corporations on a very uneven playing field. So why is it being done?